This week on Quality Digest Live, we explore how teamwork can help improve organizational insight, not to mention process capability.
That's right. Plus, can family assets help out during a corporate crisis? We'll find out when we come back.
And welcome back to Quality Digest Live for September 2nd, 2016. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
Yes, he is, and I am Quality Digest publisher Mike Richmond. You know, if you ask a bunch of high school students what they did on the summer vacation, you know, you're sure to get a lot of answers along the lines of hung out, played Pokemon Go, or hung out.
Or, I don't know.
Hung out.
Or just roll your eyes.
Yeah, they're teenagers.
You know,
but
stuff.
But not all teenagers are like that, because if you ask a very select group of teens what they did this last summer, they'll tell you that they had a life-changing experience that has probably set them up for almost limitless success in the future. And it's all thanks to a groundbreaking program at the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship at the MIT Sloan School of Management. Unleashing the Power and Potential of Teenage Entrepreneurs is the name of the news item linked out to from Wednesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily that describes this program in detail. Started in 2012, MIT Launch, which is the name of the program, allows high school students training and real-world experience in starting companies. In that time, again from 2012 until now, participating students have created companies that do some pretty amazing things, really. For example, they've created companies that use infrared sensors to check blood alcohol levels to deter drunk driving. That's a pretty cool thing, created by a teenager, by a high school student. Makes sense, right?
Actually, a little scary.
Well, but it's, hey, you know, deters drunk driving. It's
a my friends.
Great idea. Another plan that they hatched was to connect consumers and providers of high quality bulk organic foods. And they also developed an app that lets smartphone users scan a product's barcode to find out more about that company's culture. Things like what the political organizations that the company supports and donate to, and what its UN human rights rating is. I mean, that's really cool. You scan it with your smartphone.
All this information comes up.
It pops right up. So you can know a little bit more about who you're supporting, right? Great idea. And it's all great stuff. And the kids that get into this program really are the creme de la creme of high school students, not just in the United States, but around the world. Just 15% of applicants were admitted in 2016. You think about that. This isn't 15% of a huge base. This is 15% of what already is a very select group. I mean, people aren't going to apply to this just because mom says, hey, you need to do something, go apply to this thing. I mean, these are kids that have been groomed for this probably for a lot of years. So just 15% of those already very high performers get into the program. And it's just 15% were admitted in 2016. And more than a quarter of them were students from foreign lands, countries like Cyprus, Kenya, Malaysia, Romania, Taiwan, Pakistan, and Uruguay. So it's a very international group. Now, not all graduates of the program become entrepreneurs, but the lessons that they learn are likely going to stay with them and help them be successful in whatever walk of life they should choose. Because, you know, when you're doing entrepreneurship, I mean, you need a lot of qualities that really have a lot of resonance for you going forward. I mean, you need teamwork, you need resilience, you need great communication skills, and the program specifically seeks out and develops those very qualities in its applicants, and it cranks out people that have those skills going forward. I mean, these key factors help people, if you're going to be a great entrepreneur, if you're going to be just a great worker in general, or a great person, period, right? I mean, those things, resilience is a key one, right? Good communication skills. It's going to help you whatever you do. So for more information on this piece, including a link to the MIT Launch program itself, just click on the story link right below this video player screen right down there. And you know, it really is fascinating to me because I know what I did when I was a high schooler, and I thought I was pretty ambitious. I worked in a fast food restaurant, and I made, you know, all of, I think it was $3.35 an hour in those days. Actually, one of the best moments of my professional career came there when I had been there for, I think it was like 4 months. And I went to the manager and I said, I deserve a 25-cent an hour raise. I would like to request one. And he said, no. Actually, he said yes. He gave me a raise. Wow. 70, whatever it was, and 360. And I was like, wow, I got a raise. And my dad was like, great, now you can move out.
It's like, and you're making the same salary today.
That's right. That's right. It's amazing. But it's a great program. Those kids are
almost $4 an hour.
That's right. Those kids are great kids. Check out that program.
And I'm sure when they come home now and people say, what did you do on your summer vacation?
They say, hung out.
Yeah, hung out. I don't know.
Hung out. Create a company.
All right. Have you ever heard of the Material Genome Initiative?
No, I have heard of the Human Genome Project, of course, but not the Materials Genome Initiative.
Well, okay, this is actually, it's kind of, the Materials Genome Initiative is kind of parallels the idea behind the Human Genome Project, except it's for materials. I mean, the idea is to understand how and why materials work the way they do, so that you can, hopefully use that information to create new materials. So some of the things they do is like create, what the project, the initiative does is create virtual models of materials and develop simulation software so that materials development can actually proceed faster and with a lot less guesswork. I mean, or as they put it on their website, the MGI.gov, Materials Genome Initiative, MGI.gov, quotes, the Material Genome Initiative is a multi-agency initiative designed to create a new era of policy, resources, and infrastructure that support U.S. institutions in the effort to discover, manufacture, and deploy advanced materials twice as fast at a fraction of the cost. It takes about 20 years right now for once just to develop a material and get it in there. And that's actually faster than how it used to be done. I mean, if you think about it, think about even just steel. The evolution of steel, thinking how materials, and it hasn't changed that, materials development comes along. Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, whatever it was, blacksmiths discovered that iron forged in coal-fired forges was stronger than iron that wasn't, a wood forge or whatever, right? They didn't know why it was stronger, it just was, so they went, oh, okay, that's cool, we'll just forge our iron in coal-fired forges because it's stronger.
Continue to do it, right?
And then they further discovered that if you used high-temperature coal forges and cooled the steel faster, it was stronger still, and they still didn't know why, just the way it was, and kind of by gosh and by golly, as my mom used to call it. And you can find some interesting background on all this in James Warren's article, Revolution by Design, the Materials Genome Initiative. Warren is the Technical Program Director for Materials Genomics at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, otherwise known as NIST. A lot of what Warren is involved with, apparently, is simulation, software that simulates the interactions between different materials and so forth. And in fact, in 1994, he co-founded the NIST Center for Theoretical and Computational Materials Science, whose mission was to provide the basic data and computational tools that industry leaders needed to begin their own materials research. And that sounds pretty easy, right? Here's a great idea. We're going to get everybody to kind of share their information, share software routines and tools with other researchers. Well, the share part of that was actually kind of a hang-up. This was 1994, remember, and researchers at that time, and still to a certain extent, weren't overly excited about sharing code that they had spent years developing. It's one thing to publish a paper on your results, it's a whole other thing to just give your tools away. Scientists, ironically enough, are not necessarily altruistic. They are actually competitive.
Yes.
And do you really want to give someone the tools they need to be the first to discover something? But it is 22 years later, open source code is commonplace and is even more and more accepted within the scientific community. But it was slow going, says Warren. But here's why all this was important, why all the setup is important, and why the Materials Genome Project is important. Warren writes that researchers across the country in government and industry labs can use these tools, which are now very much open source, use the tools and processes and simulation software and the like to design and run smarter simulations and speed the development and deployment of materials with whatever properties they seek. And that's the goal, right? I mean, rather than stumble upon materials properties like steel, you decide what properties you would like a material to have, and then you use the tools at your disposal from the Materials Genome Initiative to try to develop it. Run simulations, see how different materials combine with less experimentation, let's say. And when you consider that, as I said, it took 20 years or more for a newly discovered material to be incorporated into commercial products, this is a big deal. Right now, the pace is just too slow, given the range of challenges that high-tech materials can help address. And in addition, new materials are also a major part of American manufacturing enterprise, so getting new materials to market faster helps generate new product innovation faster, which leads to new opportunities, and actually eventually to new jobs growth. So it's not just the matter of being the first to come to market with a material and gee whiz, we get to wave our flag in the air and toot our horn. It's really the sooner new materials come onto the market, then the sooner people can come up with ideas and innovations that use those new materials to do something cool and come up with the next new product, which we manufacture.
Yeah, right, exactly. That is cool. Now, are these materials that are developed, I assume they're patentable, right? I mean, at some level?
That's that's a good question, and that actually gets to another point. What they're providing, what these projects are providing, and in actually some case funding. I think there was $250 million worth of funding that's come from the government so far, from an Obama initiative to fund some of these. I imagine if it comes from academia, it may not be patented, more just the idea shared, kind of like stuff that comes out of NIST.
Right.
But I'm sure if you used a simulation to come up with your own product, that's going to be patentable.
I would imagine so. Yeah. Why else would the investment really be?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
By the way, it's now in its 5th year. The Materials Genome Initiative has spawned research in heat-sinking electronics, longer life batteries, better body armor, and auto bodies strong enough to make cars safer and yet light enough to improve efficiency. So pretty cool stuff. If you want more information on that article, obviously the link is below the player page. You can click on that. Link out.
That's one of those articles you like. You love that.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
It's kind of techy. It's kind of geeky, but it's also very practical. And you think about that. I mean, some of what they call these space age materials, right? These polymers and these things that have been developed in recent years to make stuff, harder, to make stuff lighter, to make stuff be more resilient is like you say, what runs industry.
Yeah, it comes up. You got to have different. You have to come up with different materials very often
for different applications.
And and the materials don't exist, so there's people waiting there, though. I mean, that's the thing, is there's people, man, I have this idea and it would be great if only there was a material that
had these properties, right?
That had these properties. Material comes out, there's people waiting to use that stuff right away.
Wow, it's amazing when you think about steel versus opposed to these materials, how it was differently found,
Right.
That steel was just stumbled upon.
It was stumbled, and a lot of materials were stumbled upon.
But not anymore. Interesting stuff. All right, thanks, Dirk. All right, well, we ran a very popular 4-part article throughout this past week titled Process Capability, What It Is and How It Helps. And it ran every day this week, actually, Monday through Thursday. The series was written by Scott Hindle. And Scott Hindle is a gentleman who works for multinational food conglomerate Nestle, specifically in operations and research and development. And in those roles, as you might imagine, he has extensive experience with statistical process control and process capability. It makes sense depending, given what he does for a living. Now, it goes without saying, or it should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway.
You're going to say it anyway. Yep.
That neither Dirk nor I are industrial statisticians. Heck, we can't even rightfully say that we play one on TV because we rarely talk about it. I mean, any of you that watch this show regularly know that we rarely find ourselves in statistical discussions of any stripe. And, to be honest, although this article does deal rather extensively, very extensively, with fine details of statistical analysis, I'm not really going to delve too deeply or attempt to delve too deeply into those details. And for one, I seriously...
Don't know what I'm saying.
Well, not only that, I could fake it, but I'm not going to, because I wouldn't want to misrepresent or misinterpret Hindle's fine work. And the other thing is that the 4-part series is right down there for your reading pleasure, after the show, of course. So check it out, because you're going to find a lot of practical information about p-values, CP, CPK, XMR charts, and a lot more. I mean, there really is.
And how to use them correctly.
And how to use them and how to use them incorrectly.
And how to use them incorrectly.
That's a big part of this, because this is really, I guess you call it an allegory, a story.
An allegorical,
about a situation. And, you see a progression of a person from well, let me get into it. Because what I do want to talk about in the piece, in the context of this article, is the underlying case study. And I thought that was really interesting because it offers a lot of great insights into how people learn from one another and how they work together to uncover and solve issues. And again, this is within the realm of statistical process analysis and looking at SBC, looking at process capability, deeply statistical in nature, but it's really about a problem. And it's about a problem that somebody didn't know how to solve and relied on his teammates to help him solve. And I thought that was really interesting. The protagonist of the piece, his name was Alan, is described in part one as a relative novice in the field of process capability. And as it turns out, that's an accurate assessment because he makes some classic blunders by jumping right into an analysis of 56 product values that he's given. He's given these 56 product values on this powder material, and he jumps right into the analysis without considering the run, i.e. the date order of the data that he's given, nor even understanding whether the process that he's asked to analyze is in control or not in control at the beginning of this analysis. And hint, by the way, it's a big surprise, it was not in control. In any event, he begins to analyze it anyway, and he comes to understand the error of his ways. And he realizes that through the assistance of his colleague, Sarah, and later through the timely intervention of another coworker, Joe, who was an integral part of the production team itself. And slowly, in large measure by reading the work of great industrial statisticians such as Kerridge and Wheeler, which were incidentally assigned to him by Sarah, Alan begins to learn the proper way to analyze a process to determine its true capability. Thanks to Joe, special causes were then neatly assigned to the out-of-control readings early in the observed period, and Alan wrote all his findings up in the report, and all ended well.
All ended well, yeah.
Right, all's well that ends well. Well, Sarah's role to me here was really the key to the successful resolution of the story, and it's what I kind of want to focus on. Again, she's referred to as a colleague when she's first introduced, but to me the term mentor I think would really be more appropriate. She spends a fair bit of time and energy simply answering questions. I mean, in the beginning, Alan says, well, I did this, I looked at this data, it looks like it's in control, right? And she kind of pushes back on him a little bit and offers him some of this reading to look at and begin to analyze. But she does, at the beginning, she does just give him some answers when he's really out at sea and really doesn't know what he's doing. But once he begins to get it, like in parts 2 and parts 3, he begins to start to dawn on him some of the mistakes that he made early on. She allows him to begin to ask and then answer his own questions and seek out confirmation without her kind of on his own. And Alan would likely not have found his way to Kerridge and Wheeler. Of course, they were very instrumental in his insights. He wouldn't have found his way to them without her assistance, and he wouldn't have understood that first insight, which was that capability cannot be assessed until a process is in control. He didn't know that at the beginning.
Right.
And Sarah knew it right away. She didn't tell him that. She kind of let him find it on his own because she's trying to help him learn, right? This is really key, I think, to what the story is all about. And what Hina lays out here is really that message that he's going to learn on his own. Now, it's quite frankly, I think it's a little too pat. It's a little too neat and easily wrapped up. Where he kind of goes down to the floor and Joe gives him these problems that were very neatly found as assignable causes to these issues, and they fix them, and then all's well and good. And it's maybe a little more accommodating than most colleagues would be in real life, but the point is really good one. It's an important point as well. People learn best when you let them learn for themselves. The Alan at the start of this tale is a lot less valuable to the company than the one at the end. And it's not just because he understands more about industrial statistics. That's important, but it's not really the be-all and end-all. It's also, his value also comes because he now realizes that the company he's working for is really a learning organization, right? And it encourages people to grow, to ask questions and find things out for themselves. And you can bet that an employee in that kind of an organization is going to be a lot more likely to continue to want to explore new learning, much to the benefit of him individually as well as the company as a whole. And that, when you read this thing, it's 4 parts, it's a couple of thousand words, but it's a good investment of a half hour or 45 minutes of your time. You'll see, again, you're going to see a lot of statistical analysis here, and you're going to understand what management is trying to do and why they assigned him this project in the beginning, because they realize that they need to get a handle on this issue. But to me, it was so interesting to see him step through it and talk to Sarah and find Sarah and have her give him some knowledge and let him understand it. The interaction with Joe was really interesting because by the time he got to Joe in part 4, he understood a lot more and was able to ask the questions. He had written on this control chart a couple of points that he wanted to know about, so he was able to go right to those points and say, well, what happened here? What happened there? Why did this happen this way and that way? And he uncovered these assignable causes.
I think that was actually, you mentioned that a lot of this is fairly pat.
Yeah, it was a little
pat. But the thing is that the learning method, kind of learning by discovery,
right.
I think is really a valid way. It honestly, it only works if people want to discover.
Right.
But when you have somebody who's interested in learning something and you give them enough knowledge to move them forward, but then give them, as Sarah did, give him reading material. She referred him to Wheeler and Carriage and some others. And then he starts to read that. A couple things happen. Number one, he realizes, oops, I did some stuff wrong.
Yeah.
But also, it raises more questions.
Right.
But now they're more intelligent questions
Yes.
because now he knows what he doesn't know.
Right.
And now he can ask questions that maybe he's having trouble to understand or gleaning. He can go back to a mentor like Sarah.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a valuable way to learn. Rather than all be chucked at you at once, is you learn in stages. You have a little bit of knowledge. You build on it, you come back, you ask some questions,
yeah.
You go study some more, you build on it, and that's a good way to learn.
This was, I think, roughly like a week's worth of time where this story unfolded, and that was important to have that pacing. And again, some of it was pat, some of it was like he was about to ask her some questions that unleashed his lack of knowledge, and she got a phone call. Oh, I have to go, I have a meeting. And it was like, oh, okay, well, he can't expose himself, because she might have just said, all right, forget it, you're a lost cause. But no, it was really well done, because yes, she allowed him to find out for himself, and he learned a lot more that way rather than just being told. So that to me is the takeaway from this article on
and by the way,
check it out. It's a good
process
article.
capability done right, you'll find out in there after you find out how it's done wrong.
How it's done wrong, yeah.
All right. Okay, so what's in a name? Well, it kind of all depends on how you use it, and that is essentially the thrust of Morton Benedsen's article, Steering a Car Maker Out of a Crisis, which first appeared in the Business School InSeed's website. And also, by the way, if you're interested in really solid business-oriented articles, really well written, check out InSeed, INSEAD, some really good stuff on there. Benedsen in this article looks at how Toyota used the value of the family name, Toyota, to reinstill trust in its customers following the sudden acceleration issue a few years ago. And if you don't remember that, it was a series of fatal accidents and thousands of complaints related to unintended acceleration, as they called it. And it prompted the recall of millions of Toyota vehicles. Now, at the same time, it was kind of a perfect storm going on here. At the same time, there was the financial crisis from 2008 that was carrying over. There was a spike in oil prices, all of which came together at Toyota, and the company posted an $8.6 billion with a B dollar loss in 2009.
And remember, up until this time, Toyota was always the paragon of quality.
Oh my gosh, I mean, it was like,
of course,
their vehicles
are
perfect, and all the customers are happy, and we're rolling in dough. And
it was quite a blow.
Quite a blow. It was at about this time, early 2009, that Toyota's supervisory board named Akio Toyoda president of Toyota Motor Corporation. This was following 14 years of what they call non-family leadership. So rather than one of the CEOs being part of the family, they were salary people. They were CEOs hired to run the company. But that was always understood to be a temporary thing. Toyota's structure, the Toyota company structure, was always that there would be somebody from the family to take the helm. That would always be that case somewhere down the line. And Akio Toyoda, was being groomed by his father, Soichiro Toyoda, to take over the helm of the company eventually. And in fact, writes Benedsen, that was always what they were planning on doing. I mean, it's that important to the culture of the company that the Toyota name be part of the legacy of the company, and not only its legacy, but also going forward.
Right.
So why is all this important? Well, maybe in normal times it might not be all that important. If there's no crisis, it may not really matter. However, in a time of crisis, Benedsen writes, a family member at the helm can provide leverage with the public. And so here's his point. Within about a year of his appointment, which was in January 2009, Toyota was called before U.S. congressional hearings to answer questions about the sudden acceleration scandal and the recall. And as Benedsen puts it, Toyota did not flinch, but used the firm's family assets, its reputation, its networks, and known values to provide an authentic and honest apology and a public commitment to fixing the problem. I am the grandson of the founder, and all the Toyota vehicles bear my name, said Toyota in one of his most revealing remarks. For me, when the cars are damaged, I am as well. My name is on every car. You have my personal commitment that Toyota will work vigorously and unceasingly to restore the trust of our customers. Now, whether you choose to believe whether that was a heartfelt statement or not, in a way it doesn't matter, because I think for a lot of people that statement has some real resonance. I think we all would feel the weight of having our family name attached to a catastrophe or any kind of product failure, whether it was a catastrophe or not a catastrophe. I think just the idea, if your name is on the product, people are associating that with you and your family. So there's a lot of pride at stake. In fact, we have a couple of idioms to that effect. I'll stake my name on it. I'll stake my reputation on it. It's all based on the same thing, right? And it's kind of a promise we make that this is so important to me that I am going to put my family name behind the product. We all realize that. So the idea that Toyota took this personally has at least an element of believability to it, and that is what Benenson was referring to in his article, the cachet of calling on your family name. And due in large part to the reputation, values, and professional network of the Toyota family. Remember, that value, as you just said earlier, Toyota was like, that was the epitome in at least quality.
For decades.
And for decades. And so he refers back to that by calling upon the family. This is what we've represented in the past, and I'm going to carry this forward. We'll get through this crisis, right? Really important. By the way, so in 2015, 6 years after the crisis, Toyota posted record sales and a profit of nearly $18 billion. And by the way, you can't help but kind of contrast this with the Porsche and Piëch families following the Volkswagen's emissions cheating scandal, when hardly you didn't hear from Porsche, the old man Porsche, for like a month after the scandal. It's like, it was just the current CEO, and it's like, where's the family?
Well, it's just a different perspective. Like
different perspective, exactly.
On the leveraging the family, the value of the family.
Yeah, by the way. And this worked for Toyota in a way that could not have worked, I think, for VW, because really Toyota's succession strategy was to keep the family involved and in charge, which really was kind of lacking in VW's management. It wasn't part of their thing that, there's always going to be a family name attached to this kind of this family culture going through it. So there is importance in that, and I think just the lesson what Benenson is saying here is that there is importance in just carrying that idea through, carrying the family name through.
No doubt. Yeah, good stuff there.
Yep.
Thank you, Derek. All right, well, we have a tweet of the week for you to close out this week's show, and this one is from a rock and roll legend.
Rock and roll?
That's right, passed along by Twitter user Mark C. Crowley, who writes, quoting this legend, "Walk amongst the natives by day, but in your heart be Superman." So said KISS frontman Chaim Witz. Chaim Witz, yes. Most of you may know him as Gene Simmons, but he was born Chaim Witz in Israel, actually.
Really?
He is Israeli, yes he is.
I did not know that.
Chaim Witz, with a very long tongue. Gene Simmons.
With a very long tongue,
That's right. Well, we can all be superheroes in our day-by-day lives. We can even change our names if we want, each in our own way, and no one even has to know. So there you go. Well, for more great tweets on management, quality, methodologies, and secret superhuman abilities, be sure to check us out on Twitter at Quality Digest.
Chaim Witz.
Chaim Witz, W-I-T-Z.
That is very interesting.
That's right.
Well, that is the end of our show today. But by the way, we have a webinar coming up next week. It's called Time to Roll Up the Sleeves, Why You Need to Transition to the 2015 version of ISO 9001 or 14001 right now. It's coming up next Friday, September 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So should be another good webinar from the folks at SGS, so be sure to
do your thing. Register for it.
Register for it.
Yeah, you can look in your email. We've been sending out emails. We have a big we call roadblock banner ad on our website that'll load once a day, and when we do webinars, it usually runs for about a week beforehand. So click on that, and you'll go out to the registration page.
By the way, it's hosted by myself, of course, and presented by Peter Merrill, President of Quest Management, and Karen Baker, VP of Operations for SGS North America. So be sure to check that out. Okay.
Gonna be good.
Have a great weekend, and it's a 3-day weekend, so awesome.
Yay, enjoy your Labor Day, everybody, and we'll see you on Tuesday and Friday for another great week of Quality Digest Live right here.
So long.
Bye.